Hey guys, how are you? Kyanite here for episode 54 of our Blackburn Rovers Football Manager 2017 save. So, apologies in advance because I've got a really bad throat at the moment. I know it seems like I always seem to have a bad throat, but I really genuinely do have a terrible throat at the moment. We basically guaranteed 4th place in the Premier League, and as you can see, we've qualified for the Champions League, which is awesome. What that also basically means, with only 3 games remaining in the Premier League, is that we basically have absolutely nothing to play for in the Premier League. So, we beat Watford 1-0, which was a game that guaranteed our Champions League qualification, and I'm not really even bothered about trying to beat Spurs to 3rd place. We can basically throw all our eggs in one basket and focus merely on the Europa League. We lost against Man City, but there was only 4 days between our game against Man City in the league, where we had nothing to play for, and our Europa League game. So, quite simply, in my opinion, the reason why we lost against Man City is because we were playing a second-string side, you know, with players like Nabil Gillas in the team. So when Nabil Gillas is playing, given that he's definitely going to be sold at the end of the season, and players like James McLean are on the pitch starting the game, I think that says a lot. And when we look at the match stats as well, as you can see, I think we were just about the better team, you know, but what happened was we came out after half-time. I think I was a little bit too negative. I was kind of hoping to come away with a 0-0. Aguero scored and then Sané got a bit of a lucky goal, but the game was already lost at that point. But like I said, we had absolutely nothing to play for. This is the big game as far as I'm concerned now, up against the Scottish champions. Ever since basically the start of this save, they've not really let slip of Celtic, and it doesn't look like they're going to let slip this season either. 61 points for Hearts just beneath them, and they're on 77, so they really are the dominant team in Scotland right now. Steve Clarke is their manager, and we've obviously got him in the semi-final of the Europa League. It's going to be the first leg, and hopefully, against a team like Celtic, I want to be able to put the game to bed nice and early on. So on that note, let's jump straight in. In terms of lineups, as you guys can see, we've gone with our regular approach, not really changed much at the moment. In terms of the starting lineup, players like Andre Gray and Yang come back into the side. Piaka moves back over to the left in comparison, of course, to how we were playing when we had our second string side out. Lol, you can see the formations on the screen. That's pretty funny. But yeah, Marco Rog comes in at centre mid because Kerem Demirbay is of course out with a long-term injury. Cheikh Tiote will come in for Romeu, playing just in front of the back four. And in terms of the back four, we've got Callas alongside Danny Batth, because Batth for me recently has been in slightly better form than Dario Dumic. And as far as the fullbacks are concerned, Fabio on one side, Varela on the other. In terms of Celtic, I was surprised to see that they've got Theo Walcott up front. He's still pretty pacey, given that he's 31 years old, but it doesn't really worry me too much. It kind of worries me because we've got Danny Batth in defence, bar Dario Dumic, but then again, physically there's not that much difference between the two. If I find that Theo Walcott's causing us problems, I might tell Tiote to man-mark him, because Tiote, even though he's not getting any younger, he still has okay physicals for the position that he plays. And yeah, okay, 9 pace ain't brilliant to keep up with Theo Walcott, but Danny Batth will be there to back him up, you know what I mean? So if I tell Tiote to mark Walcott tighter, he'll just keep that extra pressure on him. But I don't want to worry too much about Theo Walcott. He's just a name as far as I'm concerned. Looks like Van Aanholt and Grimm are just going to be looking to basically sit back. You can see from how far back they are. And most of their attacks are going to be crosses into the box. At the end of the day, Celtic have got to realise that this is the Europa League now. They're playing against the big boys. It ain't the SPL. So as far as I'm concerned, I want to show them who's boss and grab a nice, comfortable, at least 2-0 victory in this first leg. Okay, here we go. We kick off. Just to clarify, we're not in the cool TV view because the Europa League scoreboard is playing up again for some reason. But here we go. our traditional 5th minute demand more is going to kick in. Rog's going to pass the ball to Niang. Can he make it 1-0? That's a really good block there from Ilori, I think that is. I think he starts the game at Liverpool. But, you know, 6 minutes in, we've already had 4 shots and we've got 64% possession and already had a clear-cut chance. Kalinic, though, is going to catch that ball from the corner. It's kind of interesting to see. Oh, what? He's dropped the ball. Lol. Kind of interesting to see that that's Walcott injured already, facial injury. It's kind of interesting to see that Celtic have a goalkeeper who goes by the surname of Kalinic, because some of you guys might remember Niko Kalinic used to play for us quite a few years ago before we sold him. And obviously nowadays I think he's playing in Fiorentina. But it does seem like all this sitting back and soaking up the pressure is going relatively well for Celtic. We've been the better side, but I think we're going to have to start being a little bit more positive if we are going to try and unlock them. So, yeah, let's just start changing things around. So we're going to switch to an attacking mentality and take these two off. Switch to a slightly more mixed passing directness and just basically leave it at that for now. If it still seems like we're struggling to really knock on the Celtic door, we'll change our IWBs to wing-backs. We could easily swap these two over as well, which we'll give a go just to give Fabio more of an opportunity on the cutting inside, because Fabio is a slightly better shooter than Varela. Just found that recently it's worked a little bit better with him being swapped around, but it's not really too big of a deal. I think as well, the main thing for us is not to give away an away goal, but really I feel we should still be going into the second leg with a victory under our belts. And of course, if we, oh no, well, got a bit lucky there. Niang should be able to catch up, and there it is. Good stuff. Straight out into the second half. 46th minute, Niang scores, and we're one step closer to booking ourselves a place in the Europa League final. I mean, we've already qualified for the Champions League, so I think if we end up winning the Europa League, it means that the team that finishes 5th in the Premier League ends up getting our spot, potentially. I'm not entirely too sure, but let's just focus on getting past this stage first. But yeah, I feel like I was trying to make a point, but then Yang put me off with his goal. I'm trying to remember what it was now. I can't remember. So, direct ball forwards from Lee Griffiths, a bit of a Football Manager legend from back in the day. I think FM12 used to be a bit of a goal machine. I think he played for like Wolves or someone, and he was a bit of a wonder kid where, like, if you just signed him, his attributes never became amazing, but in terms of how he played and in terms of how he scored goals, he was pretty good. And, well, yeah, like a hot knife through butter at the moment. We're just tearing Celtic apart. A goal in the 46th minute, a goal in the 47th minute. I think it's fair to say that telling the lads at half-time, giving them a bit of a bollocking, telling them, come on, all guns a-blazing, you know, change to an attacking mentality has definitely done us a load of good. But we do have to be wary of the fact that Celtic themselves are going to start throwing men forwards, etc., etc. They'd be happy coming out of this game with 2-1, you know what I mean, with an away goal. But by the looks of things, switching to a slightly more positive outlook, it's counteracting how negative they're playing pretty well. And if we can make it 3 at this point, which we can, thanks to Andre Gray, I think, guys, it's pretty much the tie over and done with. I feel like I should be happier. But for me, I'm surprised that Celtic have even made it all the way into the Europa League semi-finals. Credit where it's due to Steve Clarke and Celtic. They've beat some really good sides to get here. But I think when the AI is playing against each other, you do sometimes see some weird results. Hopefully we don't give away a silly away goal as Celtic start to pour the men forward. But, you know, I trust my lads. I'm looking forward to next year's Premier League, to be honest. I feel at the moment that, given that we've broken into the top 4, I'm not sure what next season's going to be like. You know, are we going to try and focus on trying to deal damage in the Champions League, or are we going to try and focus on winning the Premier League? I guess it's just going to be... Whoops, hello, there's a goal. I guess it's just going to be a case of seeing how we do. Because we're going to be in a lot of domestic cups as well come the start of next season, as well as the league. So we struggled definitely in the FA Cup and EFL Cup and stuff this season because we were trying to focus on both the League and Champions League mainly, and Europa League mainly. So next season's going to be even worse. I do feel like to really compete in the Champions League, the same way we've managed to somehow compete in the Europa League this season, we are going to have to make quite a few key signings as well. It's just a strange one, really, because I feel like our weakest part is still our defence, both centre-back and wing-backs. Yet when you look at how we've done so far in the league this season, and even in Europe, we're amongst one of the sides that have conceded the least goals. So it's an interesting one, really. Good, solid win. Congratulate the team. I'm very pleased with your result and performance. I feel like it pretty much books us a place in the final. Obviously, AC Milan are a bit of a bogey team for us. We didn't exactly have the best time out against them in the group stages. And honestly, if we end up facing them in the final and losing, I think I'm going to be completely heartbroken. And it does seem, they've got 2 away goals against FC Porto. So we're going to need a massive, massive favour here from FC Porto, who are even second in the Portuguese league behind Benfica. So I'm not sure whether or not they can do it. Oh, it was a comeback as well. 77th minute, Andone in the 93rd minute. That's typical Milan, that. They throw all their men forward. It was like when we played them second time in the group stage. Let's go find it. And is it that one? Yeah, and then Carlos Bacca scored in the 91st minute when it seemed like we were just about to get a point against them, which could have meant that we would have finished top of the group. But yeah, it pretty much books our place in the Europa League final. In terms of games coming up, we've obviously got a game against Tottenham. Some people in the comments of the previous video kind of asked to see the game, but to be honest, I'm just going to stop recording now, play the game, get it over and done with, because the result is irrelevant, and then we'll live com the Europa League semi-final second leg, where we should really get through, even if we lose, because we're not going to lose by, I don't know, 5-0 or something, and then see who we end up facing in the final. Alright guys, just played the Spurs game, and yeah, we won 4-0. I'll show you guys the goals in a sec. 2 goals, sorry, I almost said hat-trick for Piaka, because Marco Rog is also called Marco, and they're both Croatian. Yeah, it must be a popular name. But yeah, so Piaka grabbed 2 goals, as well as the Man of the Match award, and Lucas Moura finally played his first game back from injury, and even scored a goal, which was really, really positive. Downside, Andre Gray got injured. Positively, I took him off as soon as he got injured to not, result in making the injury any worse, because to be fair, we're going to need this guy if we do make it into the Europa League final. And he's only twisted his knee, so he's going to be out for a while. But the problem with these injuries is that players, when they actually get back in the side, sometimes, particularly ones that score goals, don't end up scoring goals because basically, well, their form disappears, I find, when they disappear because of an injury for a while, if you get what I mean. But yeah, so let's take a look at some of these goals. The first thing I want to mention, just before we actually take a look at the goals as well, if we look at the match stats, I think what was really, really satisfying, obviously we still haven't jumped over them just yet into 3rd place, but the fact that we've managed to actually narrow the gap back to a point means that we could even end up taking 3rd at this point, even though I'm not too bothered about it. But yeah, so I think what was really, really satisfying, other than obviously beating the team that are 3rd 4-0, which really emphasises how far we've come under my management, was the fact that we managed 24 shots, dominated the possession, and out of the 24 shots, 17 were on target. Like, that's an epic ratio in terms of, shots on and off target. And it just makes you wonder, if they didn't have Lloris in goal, we probably would have scored a ridiculously more larger number of goals. But that was the first one. Really nice goal from Piaka. Our midfield were basically on fire. And bear in mind that I kind of went with a kind of second string side, with Rog playing on the right, Nigel in midfield, Romeu in front of the back 4. So it wasn't a full strength side. And Nigel played really, really well. Was very unfortunate not to actually grab a goal himself. As you can see, just that one touch from Nigel, sprayed the ball out wide to Moura, linking up with Alenya, And Bath as well, just recycling possession. Rog picks it up, and eventually, even though we lose the ball, we're quick to regain it. Our centre-backs were really, really solid. Danny Bath has been quite impressive recently, which is why Dumic has basically been warming the bench. But nice, intricate, short passes. Spurs have no idea how to stop us. Mora with the pass to Nigel. Nigel should have really finished there. That was the chance I was talking about. But fortunately for us, Rog ready to rumble towards the right-hand side. Picked up the rebound from Hugo Lloris. And is it me or did it just get, like, a lot brighter? Fabio doing a bit of a Zidane pirouette before picking up the ball. And Piaka on the end of the cross in the right place at the right time in the middle of the box to make it 3. And we did, after continuously knocking on the door, manage to make it 4. Spurs, honestly, I don't even think they had a single key highlight, which really emphasises how good we were. McLean to Piaka. We eventually do manage to play the ball forwards towards Lucas Moura. I actually ended up subbing Dumic on at right back, who got the assist, which was, again, quite satisfying. And he's not really ever played right back for us, but he can play right back. And he seems to have done a relatively decent job for the last 15 minutes he was put on. Really good ball from him, considering he's not that technical and that he's a centre-back. And an even better finish from Lucas Moura. Even though he was kind of one-on-one with the goalkeeper, still kind of had a centre-back in front of him, so I'm not really sure if it was a one-on-one. Didn't have much of an angle to shoot at and still managed to finish it, which was really nice. So, really satisfying victory. We have the second leg against Celtic coming up. Can we make it 3-4-0s in a row? Let's go to Celtic Park and find out. Alright guys, here we are. I'm not going to bother going through like the starting lineups. Celtic, interestingly, have actually switched from the 4-4-2 they tried in the first leg to a bit of a 4-2-3-1 with 2 defensive midfielders. Not quite sure why they want to do that, to be honest, given that they kind of need to score 4 goals. What I want to actually look for, oh, don't mess that up, Callas, is the latest scores. There it is. I want to keep an eye on the AC Milan Porto score, just down here in the left-hand corner. And one interesting fact, actually, is that the Europa League final this season is going to apparently be played at FC Porto's stadium. So it would actually be pretty cool if Porto ended up in the final at the Stadio de Dragao, I think it's called. But yeah, we've gone with a control mentality, slower tempo. We're just looking to hold on to the ball. Lucas Moura, as you can see, wow. What a goal from Lucas Moura. Almost tore a hole in the net after that strike. Piaka, who's playing in the centre for us, picked it up. The Brazilian just twisted and turned and did a bit of a samba dance around the 2 Scotsmen and then fired it home, making it 5-0 on aggregate. And we're not even putting that much emphasis on going forward. So still 0-0 as far as Milan and Porto are concerned. I feel like I'm more fussed about who we're actually going to face in the final at this point than I am what's actually happening in our own game, because I'm that confident, being 5-0 up, that we've got this in the bag. I really don't want Milan. I just don't know what it was about Milan's formation, but it kind of just seemed that narrow 4-1-2-1-2 with the wing-backs bombing forward was just something that we really struggled to exploit. Possibly because when you come up against a team like that, you want to exploit the space that the fullbacks leave behind. As far as we're concerned, we're just going to keep on, you know, hoofing the ball forward to Nyang, apparently. Is he going to make it 2? Woof. What a goal that would have been. Like the commentator just said, really good strike actually there at the end. Kalinic did really well to reach out and save that. But for a Europa League semi-final, I think you guys will agree that, ooh, I think that's the first header we actually win from a corner all season. In terms of set pieces, it only really seems like we tend to concede penalties from, you know, them free kicks, the annoying ones, which are just like really, really bugged. Oh, should have finished it there, which are like really, really bugged. And in terms of corners, it seems like we just don't score any corners. And it's just baffling because you might say, oh, your corner tactic is rubbish. You know, my recreation tactics, like with Man United and Chelsea and all that. I use the same corners, and we always manage to score from corners. What I found was that we scored a lot of corners in my recent Jose Mourinho one, and that could be just because, you know, you've got your Bailly's and your Smallings and maybe slightly better corner takers. I still think that we've got decent corner takers personally in this side, particularly, you know, when Kerem Demirbay is back, and we've got Carlos Alenia, and even Nigel is very good technically, and heck, even Piaka's got decent corner taking and crossing. And then you look at the guys that are in the box. I mean, Bath's pretty big. Callas, only 12 jumping reach.
and 13 heading, so that might, you know, play a part. But I don't know. You look at our midfield, actually, we do have two playmakers but who are a little lightweight, and to be fair, Lucas Moura and Yang ain't exactly tall. So, yeah, I think it's going to be something we're going to have to look into in the summer, definitely, because I do feel like we could do with some more goals from set pieces. We clicked on Team Talk. A lot of our players looked complacent, and you can't really blame them, to be honest. Rog making a nice cheeky run. Ooh, nice thought there from Lucas Moura, but I don't really want to see my players lose it like that, because the way Celtic are set up is to counter-attack, and they are going to grab a goal. So I'm not going to change anything around. I just want to check that these guys are actually man-marking the right people, because I saw Lucas Moura out on the left. Yeah, they are. Okay. This won't bother then. They're starting to throw men forward, finally. Good catch there from Rajkovic, though. Still no sign of really anything happening from Porto. We want some penetration, Porto. Come on, lads. Give us some cheeky Porto penetration. I think we've been a bit unfortunate to end up with having to face Milan. But it was kind of just written in the stars, wasn't it? They were in our group. They were basically the only team we struggled against in the Europa League. And we end up facing them in the final. Lustig now runs towards the byline, whips it in, and Keziah Sterling is going to make it 5-2 on aggregate. But again, I'm not going to change anything. I'm not too bothered. Good ball out from João Pedro. Lustig whipped the ball in, and should have done better there. What I'll do is give the lads a bit of a cheeky team talk, tell them to tighten up. Don't want this to get too out of hand, right? But in terms of subs, we can't really make any more subs. Porto have less than 10 minutes to score 2 goals, which I don't think is going to happen. I think it's safe to say. Theo Walcott has definitely been underwhelming for Celtic. To be fair, he went off injured in the first leg, didn't he? So we haven't seen much of him. But even down here on the right-hand side... Oh, God. There. Whew. Okay. Thank you there, Woodwork. And, yeah. Does look like this tie is going to finish 5-2. Bit of an underwhelming semi-final. Not really been happy with our second half performance, but yeah, don't really have a basis to yell at the guys when they secure a 4-0 win in the first leg. You're going to be facing AC Milan in the final, and in terms of how I'm going to approach it, I'm not sure. My inner tactician tells me to kind of go into that game looking to exploit and tinker around them specifically, but I feel like my brain tells me to stick with what the team like, and that is actually one of my issues with tactical familiarity on the game. I do feel like sometimes it plays too much of a part in how well your team performs. Like, I kind of discussed it in my Jose Mourinho recent tactical video, that like when you've got really good world-class players, tactical familiarity shouldn't affect them that much, and I feel like it still does affect teams a little bit too much, you know, in Football Manager. So you've done it, you're in the final, congratulations. Everyone looks happy, that's good. And of course, unfortunately, we are going to end up playing AC Milan. How are they doing in Serie A? So they are top of Serie A by 2 points. Lazio as well, I think, we're also competing in the Europa League. I'm not looking forward to this. I said the 4-1-2-1-2, it's more of this 4-3-1-2, sorry. I mean, they're still fighting to secure the league, you know. How many league games have they got remaining? They've got 2 league games remaining, and they're kind of important games for them, guys, because, well, if they lose the Milan derby against Inter, then they're going to have to play their best team against Palermo, which is 3 days, before the Europa League final. So hopefully Inter Milan can do us a favour, get morale to drop, beat AC Milan, potentially give Lazio an opportunity to leapfrog Milan and force Milan to play in their full-strength squad against Palermo to try and win the league on that final day of the season, which should hopefully mean, because we have nothing to play for in terms of Blackburn, we should be going into the final with a relatively fresh squad. I think Kerem Demirbay could as well make a appearance. He'll be back in 3 days. Andre Gray, I'd expect, will also be back in with a shout. So players slowly starting to come back. Lucas Moura, as we've seen, has definitely had an impact. So it's going to be an interesting next episode, guys. In terms of the next episode, it is, of course, going to be the Europa League final. But on that note, I've bloody enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you guys have too. Sorry if I've been a bit downbeat. I've got a really bad sore throat. I'm coming down with the flu. But hopefully, regardless of my own personal health, in terms of Blackburn Rovers' health, in real life, hopefully we'll beat Brentford tomorrow and not get relegated to League One. And hopefully we will beat AC Milan in this save, win the Europa League, get loads of money, and win the Premier League next season. But until next time, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.